Clara's sister held up her giant, sparkling diamond ring. Cost $50,000. Then, she looked at Clara's ring and burst out laughing. It was dark, dull, and completely scratched. Her family called it an embarrassing piece of trash. They spent weeks making Clara cry. They tried to force her to throw the ring away. But Clara's fiancé knew something they didn't. He knew that this piece of trash carried a secret. A secret that would leave her greedy family completely penniless by comparison. Before we see how this simple band crushed their arrogance, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more stories just like this one. Also, we would love to know where you are tuning in from today. Leave a comment down below and tell us your city or country. We read every single one. Now let us begin our story. Clara was a young woman who believed in true love. She did not care about fancy things. She did not care about expensive clothes or big houses. To her, life was about the heart. She worked as a teacher at a local elementary school. She loved her job. It did not pay a lot of money, but it made her happy. Then she met Thomas. Thomas was a mechanic. He worked at a small garage on the edge of town. He always had grease under his fingernails. He wore simple flannel shirts and worn-out jeans. But Thomas had the kindest eyes Clara had ever seen. He was gentle, patient, and incredibly smart. When Thomas spoke, people listened. He did not boast. He did not brag. He just lived his life with honesty and dignity. They fell in love quickly. It was the kind of love that felt easy. They enjoyed the simple things. They took long walks in the park. They cooked cheap meals together at home. They talked for hours about their hopes and dreams. After 2 years of dating, Thomas asked Clara to marry him. He did not take her to a 5-star restaurant. He took her to the lake where they had their very first date. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Thomas got down on one knee. He pulled a small, plain wooden box from his pocket. Inside the box was a ring. It did not look like the rings Clara saw in jewelry store windows. It did not have a giant, sparkling diamond. It was a simple band of dark, dull metal. It looked old. It even looked a bit scratched. "Clara," Thomas said, his voice soft but steady. "This ring belonged to my grandfather. It has been in my family for a very long time. It might not look like much. It is not shiny or new, but it carries all the love and loyalty of the men who came before me. Will you marry me?" Clara did not hesitate for a single second. Tears filled her eyes. She smiled from ear to ear. "Yes, Thomas," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the dark ring onto her finger. Felt heavy. Felt solid. Clara looked at it and felt a deep sense of peace. She did not need a diamond. She had Thomas. The trouble began 3 days later. Clara's family wanted to celebrate the engagement. They invited Clara and Thomas to a dinner party at a high-end restaurant uptown. Clara's family was very different from Thomas. Her mother, Beatrice, was a woman who cared deeply about status. She loved luxury brands. She loved to show off her wealth to her friends. Clara's sister, Evelyn, was exactly the same way. Evelyn had recently married a wealthy corporate lawyer named Lawrence. They lived in a massive mansion in the richest neighborhood in the city. They never missed a chance to talk about how much money they spent. Clara knew the dinner would be difficult. She knew her family would judge Thomas. She begged Thomas to wear his best suit. Thomas just smiled and patted her hand. He wore a neat, clean button-down shirt and nice trousers. He looked handsome, but he did not look rich. When they arrived at the restaurant, Beatrice and Evelyn were already seated. Lawrence was there too, looking smug in an expensive Italian suit. "Oh, Clara, you finally made it," Beatrice said, kissing Clara on both cheeks. Then she looked at Thomas. Her smile faded just a bit. "Hello, Thomas. Nice of you to dress up." The insult was subtle, but Clara felt it. Thomas just nodded politely. "Nice to see you, Mrs. Vance," he said. They sat down and ordered their meals. For the first 20 minutes, the conversation was completely dominated by Evelyn and Lawrence. They talked about their recent vacation to the French Riviera. They talked about Lawrence's new European sports car. They talked about the expensive modern art they just bought for their living room. Thomas listened politely. He did not interrupt. He did not try to compete. He just held Clara's hand under the table. Finally, Beatrice turned her attention to Clara. "So, Clara," her mother said, leaning forward, "we heard the news." Thomas finally popped the question. "I must admit, we were starting to wonder if he ever would." "We are very happy, Mother," Clara said, trying to keep her voice cheerful. "Well, let's see it then," Evelyn chimed in. She held out her own hand, showing off her massive, 5-carat diamond ring. It caught the light of the restaurant chandelier and flashed brightly. "Don't be shy. Show us the rock." Clara felt a sudden knot in her stomach. She looked at Thomas. He gave her a reassuring nod. Slowly, Clara lifted her hand and placed it on the white tablecloth. The table went completely silent. Beatrice squinted her eyes. Evelyn leaned in closer, staring at Clara's finger. Lawrence let out a small, muffled chuckle. "Is that it?" Evelyn asked. Her voice was dripping with disbelief. "Yes," Clara said firmly. "It is Thomas's family heirloom. It belonged to his grandfather." Evelyn laughed out loud this time. She did not even try to hide it. "An heirloom? Clara, it looks like a piece of scrap metal. It looks like a rusty washer you find in a hardware store." "Evelyn, stop it," Clara snapped, her face turning red. Beatrice shook her head, looking deeply disappointed. "Clara, dear, surely this is just a temporary ring? A placeholder until Thomas can save up for something real? A woman from our family cannot walk around wearing whatever that is. What will our friends say?" Lawrence chimed in, a cruel smirk on his face. "Hey, Thomas, if you are short on cash, I can lend you a few $100. You can at least get her something from a mall kiosk that doesn't look like it was dug out of a junkyard." Clara felt tears stinging her eyes. She looked at Thomas, expecting him to be angry. She expected him to yell or defend himself. But Thomas remained perfectly calm. He did not blink. He did not raise his voice. "The ring has great value to me," Thomas said simply. "And Clara loves it. That is all that matters to us." "Value?" Evelyn scoffed. "Thomas, that thing is completely worthless. It is embarrassing. Look at my ring. This is value. Lawrence spent $50,000 on this. Your ring looks like it cost 50 cents. The rest of the dinner was miserable." Beatrice and Evelyn kept dropping passive-aggressive comments. They talked about how important it was for a man to provide for his wife. They dropped hints that Clara was settling for less than she deserved. Through it all, Thomas stayed polite. He paid for his and Clara's portion of the bill, and they left. In the car on the way home, Clara started to cry. "I am so sorry, Thomas," she sobbed. "They were so cruel to you. You did not deserve that." Thomas reached over and wiped a tear from her cheek. "Do not worry about it, Clara. Words cannot hurt me. They only see the outside of things. They do not know what truly matters." In the weeks that followed, the mockery did not stop. It actually grew worse. Beatrice called Clara nearly every day. She kept sending links to jewelry websites. She kept offering to pay for a new ring herself. "Just tell everyone Thomas bought it," her mother pleaded. "I cannot have my daughter looking like a pauper." Evelyn was even worse. At every family gathering, she made sure to show off her diamond next to Clara's dark band. She made jokes behind Thomas's back. She told their cousins that Thomas was too cheap to buy a real ring. She even started calling Thomas the junkman when he wasn't in the room. Clara tried her best to ignore them. She loved the ring. She loved the weight of it on her finger. But the constant dripping of water will eventually wear down a stone. The endless criticism started to make her feel isolated from her own family. She began to dread family dinners. She began to hate holidays. One afternoon, Clara was visiting her mother's house. Evelyn was there too. They were looking at bridal magazines. "You know, Clara," Evelyn said, flipping a page, "your wedding is going to be a disaster if you don't fix this. People are going to look at your hand and think you marry a broke man. It reflects badly on all of us." "Thomas is not broke," Clara said defensively. He owns his own business. He works hard. He fixes old cars, Clara, Lawrence said, walking into the room. He had just arrived to pick up Evelyn. That is not a real business. That is a hobby. A real man buys his wife a diamond that can be seen from across the room. That ring of yours? It is garbage. Plain and simple. Thomas happened to arrive at that exact moment to pick up Clara. He walked into the living room and heard Lawrence's last words. The room went quiet. Lawrence did not look ashamed. He smirked. Oh, hey, Thomas. Just talking about your antique ring. No offense, buddy. Just being honest. Thomas looked at Lawrence. Then he looked at Evelyn and Beatrice. For the first time, Clara saw a flash of something sharp in Thomas's eyes. It wasn't anger. It was something else. It was determination. You all seem very concerned about the monetary value of this ring, Thomas said softly. Of course we are, Beatrice said, sighing. Life is expensive, Thomas. Appearances matter. Fine, Thomas said. He turned to Clara. Clara, tomorrow is Saturday. Let us take the ring to an appraiser. Let us find out exactly what it is worth. Together. Evelyn laughed. Oh, please do. Go to a pawn shop. They might give you $5 for it. Then you can finally buy Clara a nice dinner. We will go to the top appraiser downtown, Thomas said, his voice calm and cold. The one in the Diamond District. And I invite all of you to join us. Lawrence laughed. Count me in. I love a good comedy show. The next morning was cloudy and gray. Clara felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach. She did not want to do this. She did not care what the ring was worth. Even if it was worth nothing, she still wanted to wear it. But Thomas insisted. He told her it was time to settle the matter once and for all. They met Beatrice, Evelyn, and Lawrence outside a prestigious jewelry building downtown. The building was beautiful. It had marble floors and security guards at the door. Evelyn looked around, smiling. Wow, Thomas. I am surprised they even let you walk in here dressed like that. Thomas ignored her. He led the group inside, up the elevator and into a private office. Sitting behind a large mahogany desk was a gentleman named Mr. Harrington. He was an elderly man with thick glasses and a very serious expression. He was known as one of the top gemologists and antique jewelry experts in the country. He usually only dealt with museums and extremely wealthy collectors. Mr. Vance, Mr. Harrington said, standing up and shaking Thomas's hand. It is an honor to meet you. When you called, I could hardly believe it. Clara paused. Mr. Vance? Why did the appraiser know Thomas's name? And why did he look so excited? She looked at her mother and sister. They looked just as confused as she was. Let's get this over with, Lawrence said, sitting down heavily on a leather couch. We don't have all day. We are here to appraise a very unique family heirloom. Lawrence laughed, mocking the word heirloom. Mr. Harrington ignored Lawrence completely. He looked at Clara. May I see the piece, young lady? Clara carefully removed the dark, dull band from her finger. Her heart was pounding. She handed it to the old expert. Mr. Harrington took the ring with extreme care. He did not use his bare hands. He put on a pair of white silk gloves first. He picked up a small magnifying glass, called a loupe, and pressed it to his eye. He turned on a powerful, bright desk lamp. He placed the ring under the light. The room became completely still. For a long time, Mr. Harrington did not say a word. He turned the ring over and over. He examined the inside of the band. He examined the tiny scratches on the surface. Evelyn whispered to Lawrence, See? He is probably trying to find a polite way to tell them it is trash. But then, Mr. Harrington let out a long, sharp breath. His hands began to shake slightly. He reached into his drawer and pulled out a special chemical solution and a soft cloth. He gently wiped a small section on the inside of the ring. Suddenly, the dull, dark coating on that small section disappeared. Beneath it, a strange, deep, dark blue material caught the light. It did not sparkle like a diamond. It did something different. It seemed to absorb the light, glowing from deep within itself like a star in the night sky. Mr. Harrington looked up. His face was completely pale. His eyes were wide behind his thick glasses. "My goodness," the appraiser whispered. "It is real. It is actually real." Beatrice leaned forward, frowning. "What is real? What is that thing made of? It looks like old iron." Mr. Harrington looked at Beatrice as if she were completely foolish. "Iron? Madam, this is not iron. This ring is made of a very specific, ultra-pure alloy of platinum and taphite. But that is not what makes it special. Look at the inner inscription." The expert turned a small monitor on his desk around so everyone could see. He had attached a digital microscope to his lens. On the screen, the inside of the ring was magnified 100 times. There, engraved in tiny, flawless script, was a royal crest, and next to it a date from the early 19th century. "This ring," Mr. Harrington said, his voice trembling with awe, "is known in historical texts as the Star of the East Band. It was commissioned by an emperor for his eldest son. It was thought to be lost during the Great Wars of Europe. Only 2 pieces of jewelry in human history were ever made with this specific, dark-tinted celestial platinum. The other piece is currently in a museum in London." Lawrence stood up, his face losing its smug expression. "Wait a minute. A museum? That is impossible. It is just an old ring from a mechanic's grandfather." Mr. Harrington glared at Lawrence. "Sir, you do not understand what you are looking at. This is not just jewelry. This is a priceless historical artifact. The dark coating on the outside was applied intentionally over a century ago to disguise its true nature and protect it from thieves during the war." Evelyn gasped. "So, what is it worth? A few $1,000s?" Mr. Harrington let out a dry laugh. "A few thousand? Madam, 3 years ago, a simple necklace from the same era, made with inferior materials, sold at an auction in Geneva for $12 million. The room went dead silent. Clara felt her breath catch in her throat. She looked at Thomas. Thomas was just standing there, his face completely calm, his arms crossed over his chest. "12 million? Beatrice stammered, her voice cracking. She gripped her purse so tightly her knuckles turned white. "At least," Mr. Harrington corrected. "But because this ring is in perfect structural condition, and because it has the royal mark intact, its value is much higher. If this went to a private auction today, bidding would start at $15 million. Its final price could easily reach $20 million. $20 million. Evelyn looked like she was going to faint. She looked down at her own $50,000 diamond ring. Suddenly, her giant sparkling rock looked small. It looked cheap. It looked completely insignificant. Lawrence's mouth was wide open. He looked at Thomas, then at the ring, then back at Thomas. He could not speak a single word. Clara turned to Thomas. Her mind was spinning. "Thomas, you knew? You knew about this?" Thomas smiled gently and took her hand. "I knew it was valuable, Clara, but I did not care about the money. My grandfather was a soldier. He saved the life of a wealthy European gentleman during the war. The man gave him this ring as a token of eternal gratitude. My grandfather passed it to my father, and my father passed it to me. They told me to never sell it, unless it was a matter of life or death. They told me to only give it to a woman who loved me for who I am, not for what I have." Thomas then turned his gaze to Beatrice, Evelyn, and Lawrence. The air in the room felt heavy. "For weeks," Thomas said, his voice dropping an octave, "you have looked down on me. You called me a junkman. You called this ring garbage. You judged my worth based on the surface of things. You thought your house, your cars, and your diamonds made you better than us." Lawrence tried to speak. "Thomas, look, we didn't know. We were just joking." "No, you were not joking," Thomas said firmly. He stepped closer to the desk. "You were showing your true colors. You worship money. But the irony is, this scrap metal ring is worth more than your entire estate. Lawrence, it is worth more than your mansion, your sports cars, and your law firm combined." Lawrence shrank back. He looked completely defeated. Evelyn was staring at the monitor, her eyes filled with greed. "Thomas, if you sell it, You could buy a mansion next to ours. We could be neighbors. We could. I am not selling it, Thomas interrupted her cold. This ring is not for sale. It belongs to Clara. It will always belong to Clara. Mr. Harrington carefully handed the ring back to Thomas. Thomas took it, blew a small amount of dust off it, and slipped it back onto Clara's finger. Let's go home, Clara, Thomas said softly. Grace looked at her family. Beatrice was staring at the floor, her face red with deep shame. Evelyn looked like she wanted to cry from jealousy. Lawrence could not even look Thomas in the eye. For the first time in weeks, Clara felt a huge weight lift off her shoulders. She looked down at her hand. The dark ring did not look dull to her anymore. It looked beautiful. It looked powerful. It was a shield that had protected her from a family that only cared about greed. Yes, Clara said, looking proudly at her fiancé. Let's go home. They walked out of the building, leaving Beatrice, Evelyn, and Lawrence behind in the office. The dynamic of the family changed completely after that day. The mockery stopped instantly. There were no more jokes about Thomas's job. There were no more passive-aggressive comments about money. In fact, Beatrice and Evelyn suddenly became incredibly nice to Thomas. They invited him to dinner constantly. They sent him expensive gifts. But Thomas and Clara saw right through it. They knew the kindness wasn't real. It was just a reaction to the $20 million price tag on Clara's finger. They had a small, simple wedding a few months later. They did not invite a lot of people. They kept it intimate. Clara wore a beautiful, simple white dress. Thomas wore a classic black suit. During the ceremony, when it came time to exchange rings, Clara looked at the dark band. She realized something profound. True value cannot be measured in carats or gold weights. True value is found in loyalty. It is found in respect. It is found in a love that stands firm, even when the whole world is laughing at you. Clara and Thomas lived a very happy life. They stayed in their cozy home. Thomas kept working at his garage because he genuinely loved fixing things. Clara kept teaching her students. They never sold the ring. They did not need to. They already had everything they ever wanted. And as for her family, Clara kept them at a distance. She realized that some people are so poor, the only thing they have is money. Thank you for watching this story today. It reminds us all that true worth is often hidden beneath the surface, and we should never judge someone by appearances. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming and powerful stories. See you next time.